with the Nocturnal. How are you?
Nice to meet you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How's your day going so far?
Good. It's honestly just getting started as of like 30 minutes ago, but yeah, pretty good.
We're having an amazing start to the day. I'm talking to you. You're talking to me. So this is going to go great. So tell me a little bit about the motivation behind your recent single, Hey Little Sister.
Yes, A Little Sister was it was it was kind of a collection of experiences I had in my childhood. It all it's a bit of a difficult one, but it was a collection of me and my sister's childhood, just growing up in the family we did. We kind of grew up in a bit of a abusive household, not towards us, but just in the parent dynamic at times. And um, I always felt I was never there for her quite as much as I could have been. And in later years, we got to have lots of conversations about it and around it and open up about it. And that song kind of was like the last step of that, where I was like, we've finally processed a lot of these things. How would you feel if I shared some of these things with the world? And that's what opened up that song. And then I found, as I developed relationships with more musicians out here, I kind of found the people that I could trust to help me bring that to life. And that song came out of that experience. So.
Okay, definitely. When I was listening to it, because I know there are people who have witnessed or been a part of certain things, especially in the family dynamic when it comes to domestic violence. And when I heard the song and I was listening to it, like my heart I felt it a little in my heart because I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I know so many people who go through this, and it's sad that they go through this, and it's very common, more than people think. And it's just like, I love that this song, represents like something for them to feel.
Totally. And I think that's what it's really about, is like combining these intense lyrical messages with a world that feels a little more digestible, whether that be just the way a piano is played in a more like childlike manner. I think a lot of people just need a way to accept something, and music is by far, I think, the best way for them to do that. So.
Absolutely. So, like, music just describes your mood in so many different ways, more than you can even express through your own words.
Yeah.
Definitely. And you have an upcoming single coming out, and it's releasing on November 18th. And you described the song as an expression of love that has gone stale. So can you walk me through the creative process for this song?
Yes. So hollow is an expression of love that has gone stale. Kind of, it represents the long relationship that I've been a part of for the last 2.5 years, kind of starting to come to a close while still in the relationship. I think for some people, relationships end abruptly, and then you start to kind of lose parts of that person and lose feelings for that person. But for me and for the other partner involved, I think that process started to happen while we were still together in the relationship. And it started to become this experience where I started to see parts of the person I loved slipping away. And I'm sure she saw parts of me slipping away. And to try to balance that out and hold yourselves into that is just such a difficult thing to do. And so I think that song just really ties together all of the nuances of that relationship for me. So
Definitely. And I feel like a lot of people get into certain relationships, and then when you leave it, you do realize you were hollow in certain aspects, like whether that be emotionally, mentally, certain parts just aren't fed that much in a relationship after a while.
it's very true. Yeah.
Very true, very true. So when you have songs that are very topic driven and do focus on, certain emotions, what is that when you're putting the words together? Like how does it come together? Like does the melody come first? Do the lyrics come first?
Yeah, I think it all starts, for me at least, with melody. And I think the melody has to be sung with something. So while I sing these melodies, words do come out, not words that I'm thinking of, but internal subconscious words. And it's very unique when I look back to realize that those words, 90% of the time, even if it's not the exact word that I use in the final song, it's still in the topic of the song. So I think I think melodies channel subconscious lyrical content. So for me, I just sit there in spaces I like, parking garages and stairwells and I don't know, my living room, and I just start to sing. And as the melodies come out, hints of the song start to come out lyrically. So that's really my process. So.
Definitely. And what do you feel like your music says about you?
I mean, I think it is always changing as I'm always changing. I'm definitely in a very developmental stage of my life, and I think I will continue to change as a person, and my music will continue to change. But I think I strive to just say exactly how I'm feeling at the moment. And so I'm going, through a pretty intense breakup, and Hollow comes out. Hey Little Sister was a little bit more, it was a bit more in hindsight. So, but I also wasn't creating music when that happened in my life. So I think it's whatever, it's either if I need to express something, I'll write about it, or if it's something current in my life, I'll write about it. So it's really those two avenues.
Definitely. And when I was listening to Hollow, I like to listen to a song multiple times. And like the first time, I just listened to the song in its entirety. But then afterwards, I listened to the melody just to see how I feel about that. The words are the next time I listen to it. And then afterwards, I listen to like the beats, everything just coming together. And like I also listened to it to just see what emotions I'm going through. When I was listening to Hollow, I just thought, I could connect to this song. And I feel like that's what's good. That's what a lot of listeners are going to be able to do because it's like everyone's gone, as you mentioned, a very intense breakup that has changed you or has put you in a certain mental space. So I just feel like, what do you want your listeners or your fans to take away from certain songs, especially like Hollow?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of also a firm believer of once I put a song out into the world, it's not really up to me to dictate what the song means to anybody else or how it resonates with anybody else. So, for me, it is about love growing stale or losing emotions while still with somebody in a relationship. But to somebody else, I guess they can apply it to any part of their life that they need. And I think, songs speak differently to everyone who listens to them. So I think it's a pretty up for interpretation kind of result in that way.
Definitely. And you're a singer, you're a songwriter, you play multiple instruments. So, how did you get into music? And what was the defining moment that you knew you wanted to pursue music as a career?
Yeah, I think growing up, I grew up with a very compassionate and loving family of music lovers. They weren't necessarily musicians themselves, but they surrounded themselves and then therefore myself with just so many forms of music, whether that be, the Grateful Dead or Van Morrison. And my house was always filled with instruments. We had, very, very broken and out of tune guitars and very broken and out of tune pianos, but still guitars and pianos. And so I think music, it was never strange for me to start writing music or singing music. It just felt like it was part of my life innately. And then I think the defining moment to know I wanted to do it was after a different chapter of my life kind of closed, that was at that time taking up all of my energy. I really needed something to just fully pour myself into. And the closest thing that had been a constant in my life was music. And so it just felt like the complete correct choice to kind of dive into that.
Definitely. And you mentioned, a certain part of your life, a certain chapter of your life closing. And when I was reading, I saw that you were in a accident snowboarding, right? So, how did you pick yourself up and find the motivation to find a new hobby and a new interest?
Yeah, again, I think it was almost like just a necessity. It was like the second snowboarding ended for me, and that side of just pouring all of my time and energy and brain power into something evaporated. I needed another outlet, and I needed it fast. I wasn't really good at just sitting back idly, especially at that time in my life. So I think it was really born out of necessity to jump into something and allow myself to jump into something so quickly. But
Definitely, definitely. I feel that. I feel like we've all gone through that moment where like, I need a change and I need it now, you know?
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And after graduating high school, you basically packed up and moved to Los Angeles. And that's a very big move. So, what was your thought process like when making that decision? Because I feel like a lot of times I jinx myself out of making big choices. So, like, how did you keep yourself going? Like, I need to do this to, further, my career or just, for myself?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I think I'd spent the year prior to graduating high school telling everyone from my parents to the person working at the coffee shop to my teachers to my classmates my plan as a way to hold myself accountable so that if I wasn't in Los Angeles by the month after I graduated, literally everybody I knew would be like, hey, you said you were going to Los Angeles. And so that pressure I'd created kind of forced me here. But honestly, I'm from a small town and I knew that there was more to life than just that small town. And I'd made a very clear decision early in life to just trust my instincts on things, and moving to Los Angeles felt like the right choice. So I never doubted it, never doubted it once, at least in the process of moving here. So
Definitely, definitely. And can fans expect the album coming soon?
I think we're looking into the next year for an EP and definitely more singles. Until then, I think, I'm trying to build this fan base that is ready to like really kind of consume a whole album, but definitely an EP and a project sometime in the early next year. So
Okay, well, I'll definitely be one of those listeners when a
thank
single drops. So
yes.
I'll look forward to that. And I guess my last two questions would be, if you could collaborate with any artist in the industry, who would you want to collaborate with?
Hmm. Um, I mean, I guess if is it dead or alive, or is it alive right now in the industry? Yeah.
We could do dead or alive.
All right, dead or alive. Then I would say I think lately it's been Jeff Buckley, who, I mean, he's famous for Hallelujah, but also Lilac Wine and Lover Please Come Over, some amazing songs. So Jeff Buckley, I would say.
Oh, I could see that, like the collaboration of like, his vocals, your vocals. Okay, I
You
like
know,
that.
yeah.
So, who do you feel like are some of your influences to your sound?
I would say again, it's probably influenced by every artist I've ever heard in some way, but I would say the major influences right now are Bon Iver, and there's another band in that lane called Novo Amor. And then, I mean, I love Bieber. Will always love everything he makes. I think it's just a combination of those two. Lately, it's been, I don't know, Lana Del Rey. There's a lot. There's a lot of influences.
Okay, and my last question is, where do you hope to be in your career in the next 5 years?
5 years, I would say I would love to be, in 5 years, I would love to be sure of the next 10 years. That's my main thing. But I would say in 5 years, I would love to be starting to play much larger scale shows. I mean, I would say I would love to be playing arenas in 5 years, which is a very ambitious goal, but I think it can be done. And I'm telling you that now. So, and then I would also just love to be very confident in the relationships around me and the closest people to me. I would love to know that they are there and I can support them and they can support me. So
First off, I'm very big on speaking things into existence. So you will be performing in large arenas. I see it happening very soon. And I definitely agree with the relationships, getting more confident in them. I feel like sometimes some seem a little more shaky than others.
very true. It's very true. So yes, being grounded and sound and the relationships around me is a big priority, I would hope, in the next 5 years.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. It was a pleasure. And I loved both your songs.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Well, yes, I look forward to hearing everything that is to come out. And yeah, thank you.